Well, hello there EFD squad and welcome back to another episode of Continental Club with myself, the Flying Dutchman that is Patrick Van Straten and the crawling sloth that is George Wright. How are you, gentlemen?
Good, thanks.
Are you as ecstatic to be in this very hot room as I am?
I'm so delighted.
Absolutely dripping. Anyway, we're going to start with AC Milan and a question from Raquel Santos. It is, what do you think of the AC Milan restoration project, especially after they snapped up Andre Silva and are potentially moving in on Forsberg? Now, we got a bit of grief, didn't we, on Monday on Winners and Losers for not putting AC Milan in our winners section because they've gone about their business very quickly in this transfer window, but we didn't want to shoot a bolt nice and early. We've kept it for Continental Club and we're going to talk about them now. Georgios, let's lead off with Andre Silva, the guy who's had a great breakout season this season, 21 goals in 49 appearances in all competitions, including 4 in the Champions League. Tell me a little bit more about his playing style, what AC Milan fans can expect from him next season, and your overall thoughts, my friend.
Well, it's just a really good investment for now, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, isn't it? Like he's an all-round striking scorer, both feet with his head. It's not really fussed. He lays on 1.2 key passes a game, I think. So
he's a provider as well.
Good link-up play, and I just think for Milan right now, with Carlos Bacca was like. He's going into his 30s now. He wasn't the greatest to begin with, more just really a limited goal scorer, basically, wasn't he? And Andre Silva is much more than that, and especially for Portugal as well, he's stepping up massively. He's got 7 and 8 for the national team now, and just as Cristiano Ronaldo is moving into a centre forward, they finally get a striker that's good enough to play alongside him.
Yes, the new Paoletta he's been dubbed. And I mean, Patrick, are those comparisons justified?
Well, he certainly seems like he's an intelligent, all-round striker. Obviously, he's performing at a very young age for a difficult team in a league which is maybe not a top one, but certainly which we've seen plenty of talent come out of. I'm really excited about the business they've done. They've gone for young-ish players. Musacchio isn't particularly young. Ricardo Rodriguez, I believe, is 24 now. But those guys are all ready to compete, and they're all pretty much proven as well. Musacchio, the one issue you'd have with him is that over the years, a bunch of teams have been interested in him. And every time, the reason they've gone for another Villarreal defender, Arsenal went for Gabriel, Man United went for Eric Bailly, is because Musacchio has these persistent injury problems. So that could be a concern. But
of course, Villarreal, the second strongest defence in La Liga last season, and as you've alluded to, been very sound for years, haven't they?
Well, so every year they manage to turn over manager and yet keep a solid defence. I think that Milan, what they're doing here is buying players who will definitely be assets even if they don't end up staying in the first team forever. These people would have resale value if they didn't work out for whatever reason, so that would be good. Like George said, this is a shift from the kind of let's buy somebody and hope that they can score 30 goals this season so that we can win now, to saying where are we going to be in 3 years, where are we going to be in 5 years. There's still work to be done though, of course. They're looking at Conti, the Atalanta right back, to replace Abate. That would probably be a very good move. He looks like an exciting, dynamic young player. Atalanta had a great season with him in the side. Apparently they want another midfielder. Lucas Biglia is on their radar. He is an older player, but he'd add some experience and some depth. And then they apparently want a wide guy. I think Suso is not all that. I think that
he's actually wanted by Napoli and Roma, you know, for
is he really?
Upwards of 40 million euros.
Well, I think Roma don't really need him. I'm not sure Napoli do either. But I think that Deulofeu, I'm not sure that they're going to get him back next season. So Keita Balde-Diaw's on the radar, and also James Rodriguez, and that would be truly amazing. If they wanted to add a little bit of stardust to this exciting young squad they're building, then James Rodriguez would be the player.
I mean, out of those new signings, you've got to say that Kessie from Atalanta is the jewel in the crown, isn't it? He looks like he could be an absolute hell of a player. But this belies AC Milan's kind of this good preparation belies their past year, doesn't it? The Chinese guy who took over had to borrow money from a consortium in the US. Maldini turned down a role as a sporting director because he said the platform wasn't there for him to succeed. That Mirabelli, the head scout at Sunderland, he was the head scout at Sunderland, sorry. He's now taken over in that role, and they are absolutely nailing through their targets, aren't they?
It's a complete contrast to when they sold Kaka onwards, where it was just complete chaos every single summer.
Yeah, absolute free fall. And this, I put on my phone last night, gentlemen, how they could line up next season. Thus far, you know, as you say, they might add James Rodriguez. They're looking for a right back. I think you pointed towards, was it Conti from Atalanta?
Yeah.
So far, if they play in Vincenzo Montea's 4-3-3, Donna Kebab in goal, Abate at right back, who they're looking to replace. Musacchio is a centre back with Romagnoli. He's only 22. I thought he was a lot older than that, actually. He looks old. Ricardo Rodriguez at left back. Kessié, Locatelli and Bonaventura in midfield. That's quite an exciting three, isn't it?
It really is.
And Suso, Andre Silva, and I put Delafeu in there in case they keep him.
Yeah.
But if not, the likes of maybe Lapadula could come in. What do you think to that 4-3-3? Is that good enough to put them in the top 4 of Serie A next season?
I think it is. I think if they manage to keep the core of that squad, like Bonaventura has been very good for this season, Locatelli especially, if they manage to keep that kind of spine for a few years, that's what they need to do rather than just instant success. They need to grow their own players and add a few more additions every summer, which will just complete it. I don't think they'll be close to Juve next season.
No.
But
who is?
They can't expect, like the Milan board can't expect them to be challenging straight away. They need to go about in a small methodic way.
I think 4th is the best they can hope for next season. Like the top 3 teams in Serie A are really very good. Inter have added Spalletti now, which is a really good managerial upgrade. So the question is, Montella's a good manager, but whether he can, like George says, whether he can keep that squad together. Because I think they're not saying, look, we're going to be in the top 4 this season. They're going to say, you know what, in 3 years' time we will be in the top 4, and then we will be in it for the next decade. That's what they really want. They can't have that sort of instability happen again. It's been a huge loss for them to be out of the Champions League for this long. They never expected it would last this long.
Yeah, and they need to get back in the Champions League with that money spent and the money invested from the Chinese owners. If they don't rake in that Champions League money, it could all go down the toilet of the Swanee very quickly, couldn't it? But what do you guys think? Will AC Milan finish in the top 4 of Serie A next season? Who else should they sign? What do you make of these signings? Let us know in the comments below. Our next question is from Mohamed Kurdsheed, gentlemen, and he wants to know, who should Barcelona sign next season to make them a dominant force in European and Spanish football again? Pato, I know who your answer is going to be already. You could wax lyrical about this man for days, so you might as well kick us off.
Naby Keita. Naby Keita. I believe he's just turned 22. Guinean international, obviously only moved from RB Salzburg to RB Leipzig last summer. Everyone wants him this year, and with good reason. This is a guy who is probably the second best all-round midfielder in the world, and the only reason he's second best is because of a guy who I think George is going to talk about in a little bit. He can do absolutely everything. He makes, I think, about 5 tackles plus interceptions per game. He creates 1.5 chances from central midfield. That's about as many as Gareth Bale does for Real Madrid. That's absolutely nuts. He completes 3.5 dribbles. That's more than Messi. He does it at a higher rate than Messi. 70% dribble success. When you think about players completing dribbles on the wing, you understand why, right? They've got a fullback against them. There's plenty of space, and they can use the sideline to kind of get down there to the byline. I think that really helps. Whereas in the centre of the park, it's congested, you don't know where people are going to try and tackle you from, and he still completes 3.5 dribbles. The one concern before he went to the Bundesliga was, could he step it up to the higher level? Could he be part of a possession side in a more congested midfield setup? Obviously, the Bundesliga, we see it is contested in the midfield more than other leagues, where it's attack versus defence or whatever. And he's completely able to do it. He can play great passes in very tight spaces. He can hit a long ball as well. He even got forward and scored a bunch of goals this season and a bunch of assists as well. He really is an absolute dynamo. I can't see him not going on to be maybe the best central midfielder in the world. Ooh. And I think if Barcelona were smart, which they're not, if Barcelona were smart, then they'd sign him now. The thing is with Barcelona, what frustrates me every season is they should sign better players than they do. They got Umtiti last year. That was brilliant business. Andre Gomes, terrible. Luca Digne, terrible. They just need to sort these transfers out like Milan have. You've seen that you can do it in the space of a year, and then they can get in Naby Keita. He would absolutely... He would bang in that Barcelona team.
There we go, Barca. Be more Milan. I mean, we might as well stay in the Bundesliga because I know who you're going to say as well, Georgios.
Yeah, I mean, it is like the biggest pipe dream of all time for Barcelona, and they shouldn't have let him go in the first place. But it's Thiago Alcantara. The guy is he's an absolute machine. He can play anywhere in midfield. He can play number 10. He can play deep. He can play 6. He can play 8. And his numbers are absolutely ridiculous. Like 7 long balls a game, 90% pass completion. And you think he's like the chance he created as well. Defending, 5 interceptions a game. Like, what is that? That is mental.
He's like a spider, man.
Yeah,
What is this?
He's like the perfect Barcelona player, and they let him go for what? Like 20 million?
20s, yeah.
18 million
And
euros, I
it's
think.
just-
Less than they paid for Alex Song.
He was the perfect replacement for both Xavi and Iniesta, and they just it out of the wall and signed Andre Gomes and let him go.
Well, when a person, a manager like Pep Guardiola says to his board, I want Thiago or nothing, then alarm bells should have been ringing at Barcelona, shouldn't they?
It's one of the worst decisions I've seen in a long time, letting him go and not playing, because he had in his contract he had to play a certain amount of minutes, wouldn't it? Or his release clause was a certain amount.
Yeah.
And not playing them minutes and playing an aging Xavi over him, it was just. It's worse than for me than Man United letting Paul Pogba go to the Juventus.
Worse?
Because I think.
Is it worse though? Let us know in the comments. Carry on.
But yeah, I think the more realistic one is the one you're going to talk about, Chris.
Yes, and it's news has kind of surfaced of €100 million bid for the man I'm going to say, which is the one and only Marco Verratti. Very similar, I think, to Thiago Alcantara in some regards, in that he can play a wide variety of positions in that midfield, can't he? He averages 90 passes a game, 5 long balls, 3 take-ons. So within that skill set, you've got a Xavi, you've got an Iniesta, come into the surface. And he's apparently told PSG's sporting director, Antero Henrique, that he wants to leave. And rumour has it a Barca bid has been rejected already. Now, for me, this guy is... he's got Barca written all over him, hasn't he? The technique, the vision, the way he just slows down plays, like Iniesta, in that he can just set the tempo, the rhythm of a game with a touch, with a delayed pass, with a through ball. I think he's making 90 passes a game, which is only bettered by Thiago Motta in that squad, and that is because Thiago Motta, his role at PSG is to reset play, to receive the ball, to offload it. I mean, when you're also coupling that with 3 take-ons, and I think he makes 1.5 to 2 key passes a game as well. This is a guy who just creates opportunities so he can contribute on all fronts. I just think this season, as you alluded to, Barca bought really badly, and it's meant that Busquets hasn't had much of a rest. Luis Suarez hasn't had much of a rest. Iniesta hasn't had much of a rest. Sergio Roberto's had to kind of step up, maybe where Denis Suarez should have. And I think Busquets, he's looked jaded, hasn't he, this season? He's looked fatigued. I think he needs a rest. With someone like Marco Verratti, you can put him in a number of positions and rest key players like Iniesta, like Busquets at any given moment, and it not affect the balance of the side. I just think Verratti, for me, I mean, I've got some stats down here. I mean, it's hard to compete with Alcantara's numbers. I mean, he does outdo Alcantara in terms of tackles per game and take-ons, but in terms of interceptions, as you say, pretty hard to top. But I think he'd be perfect for that Barca midfield. But who would you go for, guys? Let us know in the poll just above. Would you go for Verratti, Naby Keita, Pato's absolute catamite, or Thiago Alcantara? Let us know by clicking. Next question comes from Admiral T, and it is, will England's Under-20 World Cup win usher in a new era for the Three Lions? Talk about putting them up on a pedestal straight away. I mean, they hadn't won a game in this age group at a tournament in a final since 1997 before this, which is pathetic. Yeah. But this is the same crop that also reached the semi-finals last year under Adi Boothroyd. So there's obviously a strong core contingent of talent there. Georgios, what do you think?
Well, I was watching the final and I was very impressed by the England's youngs. Like, you could tell they've been playing together for absolutely ages. They've tried to keep the same squad together. Lewis Cook was very good. Slanky was one player of the tournament, but I think the standout player was Josh Onuma. I thought he was really good, and he was like constantly driving up and down the pitch. And I think if they get the game time they need, there's no reason why they can't reach the potential they've got, because it's clearly a very talented squad. But with the way the Premier League is, can you see, if they're at a top club, can you see them getting the minutes that they need to in order to progress? Because like Lewis Cook, he joined Bournemouth from Leeds, and he already got a look in last season. I mean, he was injured. He was injured a lot, but if you can't get into Bournemouth, then what hope is there?
Brexit FC.
Yeah.
What do you think, Pat?
I don't really think the problem is talent for the England team, I think there actually is loads of young talent in the country at the moment. I agree, Onomo's really, really good. Calvert-Lewin looks good. A lot of people like Davis at Everton. I'm not hugely convinced, but maybe. Kyle Walker-Peters at Spurs. There's a bunch of talent. The real issue for England is not producing players, it's producing coaches. The way that coaches are educated in the country is really, really bad. When you compare it to places like Germany, they're massively behind. They don't understand pressing. When we talked to Ted Knutson, he said once that he went to a course, one of the coaching courses for your licenses you need to get in order to be a professional football coach. And he said that there was about kind of 5 minutes where they mentioned pressing, and they said it's a fad and it will pass.
Dear.
And you think, well, even if it is a fad, if that fad lasts 10 years, then you're massively behind for the next 10 years. So I think the question will not really be how good do these players turn out to be, but how good will their coach turn out to be. I don't think Gareth Southgate's very good. Maybe A.D. Boothroyd's better. Who knows?
I actually think, like with the players as well, this is quite deep, but English players are so privileged at such a young age compared to those in, say, like South American countries. Like Slanky, he didn't sign a new contract at Chelsea because he wanted 50 grand a week. And he's what, 18, 19? And it's ridiculous. Compared to someone like, I don't know, Alexis Sanchez, who came up from nothing and worked his way to the top. And you've got English players who are going for an academy, get a lifestyle, and they're already at a young age where they're already earning a ridiculous amount of money per week rather than earning it. I think the mentality plays a massive part in the English game as well, and I think that's why there's been so much talent like Ravel Morrison and stuff like that, where they never feel it because their heads are not on straight from a young age.
That ties into their reluctance to go abroad as well.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're a South American player, you know that if you want to be at the top of the game, you are going to have to leave your continent at some point and go to Europe. And so you always have this in mind that you're going to have to leave your homeland. Whereas English players think, I can actually have a top-class career and never leave the country. And as a result, they're not really open to those sorts of possibilities. This is why it was kind of exciting when Oliver Burke went to RB Leipzig last summer. Little young Scottish player, a load of people wanted him, went there. Chris Willock, who's in Arsenal's academy at the moment, Man City are after him, and so are Borussia Dortmund. That's really exciting. So if you start to see those younger players filter out to some of the better academies around Europe, not just in the UK, then you will see their quality improve. But the question is whether they can play as a team. And when you look at Portugal in the last European tournament, yeah, there's outstanding individual talent there, but they won the final basically without Ronaldo, and Ronaldo didn't have his greatest tournament. Do you look at the England squad and think that it's vastly inferior? I know that a lot of English fans do, but I, as an impartial observer, don't at all. I think there's loads of talent in the England squad. So it's a matter of coaching and playing together.
Going back to what you just said about Germany in the Bundesliga, I think the DFB have a much bigger say in how kids are coached at a younger age as well, at club level, which I think also helps. And I mean, England's equivalent to Germany's 10-year plan at the FA is up in 2022, isn't it? They wanted to win a World Cup by 2022. I think this obviously helps. It justifies some of the big spending that's been going on at St George's Park. Coach Paul Simpson has done a fantastic job. I mean, Davies from Everton and Paddy Roberts from Celtic / Man City, they weren't even in the squad. So there's other really talented players in that age bracket who are playing with the under-23s, who are playing, who didn't go to the tournament because they're playing with their senior clubs. So I think it's a very exciting time. I think we're putting too much responsibility on their shoulders if we say this is going to usher in a new era Admiralty, but it certainly looks promising. Penultimate question, guys. This one comes from Sati, and they have asked, who is your favourite manager of all time? Let's keep this brief because this room is absolutely sweltering. Pato, go on, you go first, mate. Lead us off.
If I had to pick somebody, I'm going to pick somebody whose football I'd want to watch week in, week out. Okay. And I'm going to go for Sampaoli. Like, I know he's relatively young in his career, versus other people we could say, like Wenger or whatever. But everything he enjoys in football, everything he wants from football, it's the same stuff I want. He wants it to be exciting and high-paced and fun and all those things. That's what I look for in football, so Sampaoli.
Okay. George?
I always going to say Arsene Wenger because I love him to death. He's like the dad I never had. But I can't go for him. But an outside shout, watching back old tapes, doing research, stuff like that. Rinus Michels. All of his sides, the Ajax side and the other sides.
Purists.
absolutely mental, mate. Have
When
you seen the
the
pressing?
The videos of pressing, yeah.
It's like a total.
It's not even organised.
Yeah.
It's like
It's a playground pressing.
orange ants, isn't it?
Yes, it's nuts.
all
And
over
just
the place.
total football. It's quality to watch because
Yeah.
it's just like watching a basketball. Anyone can go anywhere and they still perform
When
as
you-
well as possible.
When your centre backs are cracking in free kicks as well from 30
Yeah.
yards, it's just like, what is this?
But
What is
yeah.
this? Coleman, 10 goals in a season or whatever. I'm going to go for a little bit more of a personal one. I could go along the same lines like Bielsa.
I was hoping someone would say Bielsa.
Yeah, obviously, Sampaoli's an acolyte of Bielsa. You've got Zeman. I think when we do our scripts for EFD, we always uncover interesting stories involving Zeman. He recently took over at Pescara. I'm not sure if he's still there. You know, one of those classic Italians who's on the sideline smoking a cigar. I could say the likes of Jock Steen, but you know, it's more my dad's era. So I'm actually going to go for Martin O'Neill.
I knew you were going to say Martin O'Neill.
That Celtic squad in the early 2000s could have competed with anyone. Anyone in world football.
So
Well,
why didn't it win the Champions League then?
we beat Barcelona home and away. Well, I mean, we lost to Porto in the UEFA Cup final. This was the same Porto side, pretty much man for man, who won the Champions League the following season. We had a really terrible qualifying campaign for the Champions League that season. I think we lost to, it's a French side, I want to say Nantes, but I'm not all that confident. But yeah, the way Celtic played functional football, but they had an exceptional individual in Henrik Larsson.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Martin O'Neill's brand of football now would be anywhere near as entertaining as Brendan Rodgers is, or as dynamic or tactically flexible. But that side it contains some real characters: Stilian Petrov, Alan Thompson. He's picking up players like Chris Sutton and John Hartson, Chris Sutton came off the back of winning the Premier League. He had one bad season at Chelsea, and Celtic picked him up for 6.5 million. And lo and behold, he forms a brilliant partnership with Henrik Larsson. If you want to watch a game that embodies that era of Celtic, watch us beat Del Piero's Juventus 4-3 at home, where Chris Sutton scores a left-footed volley. It's glorious. I get goosebumps talking about it. But that would be my answer. Guys, who'd be yours? Let us know in the comments below. Last question comes from Liam Stewart, and it is simply an English fry-up, boys, or a Continental. If you don't say Continental, George, then you're back on FD.
It's a fry-up.
You're an
It
idiot.
has to be.
No, come on.
Why?
Because it's just got everything. It's a mash. It's like a mixed mash of everything you want, apart from black pudding. That's
Yeah, that is disgusting. And when they give you like a grilled tomato or whatever, and all it does is like superheat the inside of the tomato, so it's like a nuclear
The
weapon.
seeds burn your soul.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And also, why can't the English cook bacon? When you hold one end of bacon, it should stand out like that, like a diving board. And instead, it's just like floppy.
So you like the
white
you like the
fat.
crispy stuff. You like the thin streaks. Are you a streaky bacon man?
I prefer bacon to be cooked. Yes.
Right, okay.
That is
What
I
would you
like.
go for anyway? Continental. fry?
Continental, mate. Continental all the way. I like pastries. An open sandwich.
Yeah, I've got to say when it's 30 degrees, George,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going for Continental all day. A little coffee, little croissant with cheese and ham inside.
Maybe some granola, some
Perfect.
fruit.
A little bit, yeah. A grapefruit in the morning.
Lovely.
A bit of sour fruit to kick the day off, but you know, on a cold, wet English day,
Yeah.
a fry-up, comfort food. But I mean, that's the question you all came to hear, right? Or hear his answer. So there it is. That's it for this week's Continental Club, guys. Thank you for sending your questions into us on Twitter. If you want us to answer your questions next week, get at us on these handles below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Pato, forgot to ask you what they should do next.
Check out Stat Wars right here on Euro Football Daily. Head over to Football Daily and check out the transfer winners and losers that Chris mentioned earlier. And of course, make sure that you stay right here on this channel to see all the great stuff we've got coming up for you this summer.
George, enjoy yourself.
Yeah, it's right.
Brilliant.
Cool.